Hello and welcome to Bonk Table. I'm Mass and this is another Conquest Battle Report. Today I'm going to be playing 100 Kingdoms versus Dweghom, and I got a pretty good game for you guys and I hope you're very excited to see it. My list in front of you is a new list I'm playing and something that I've been kind of wanting to peek into. Like, I've been trying to grab different characters and go into their war bands and see what they got. Playing some stuff that I've heard about and really want to try, but either didn't have the time or I was focused on other things at the time when I was playing. So this is just me kind of expanding. The thing you'll notice at the top right away is that I am missing 40 points. Currently in the online army builder, army rules can't be selected, so like veterans and relentless drills and dynastic alliance for 100 kingdoms and such. So I'm in veterans, and I'll explain what I'm veteran when I get there. Yeah, that's kind of why that's there. My warlord for this list is the Imperial officer once again. He's got that supremacy of rapid deployment, so everyone's going to get Vanguard. My heirlooms are Armor Dominion, Standard Steel. If you've watched my other videos, you've seen this plenty of times because I just love this combo, especially on the Imperial officer. Armor Dominion, anyone in contact with this character stand loses the Cleave and Smite special rules, and Standard Steel, enemy regiments cannot inspire into the regiment this character's in. So they're really good defensive heirlooms for 100 Kingdoms. He's running Drill 1 and Drill 2. This is Double Time and Bastion, so whenever the unit activates, they can trigger 2 draw events, so you will get Double Time and Bastion. For Masteries, I had 10 points left over, so I just threw Destroying Strikes onto him. I actually used it this time. I remembered, reviewing and making battle reports and discussing my games, remembering my rules, getting good. Retinue, he's got Tactical 1 through 3, so he's got Indomitable, and then taking a second heirloom allows him to get his Standard of Steel. And then Tactical 3 is getting Flank, so he's going to be in a unit of Steel Legion, and they're going to flank on the table, and because I only have 2 heavies in the list, 2 units of Steel Legion, both of them are getting on turn 3, so that's really good for me. His warband, he's going to have a min unit of Men-at-Arms, so 3 stands, no upgrades. Min unit of Merc Crossbows, 3 stands, no upgrades. My big boys here are the 2 Steel Legion. They are currently veterans, even though it doesn't show it, but I do have the extra 40 points for each of them too. They got Standard Bearers, they got their Drill Master. Drill Master just gives them +1 attacks, so they go up to 6 attacks for each stand. The veterans will give them Clash 4, once again not represented because veterans isn't activated due to the army builder. And then, when they inspire, they'll be rerolling 6s. So I got 2 blocks of these, really nice to have around. My next warband, I'm actually running a Noble Lord. And the reason why I'm running the Noble Lord is that I really wanted to dig into longbows for the next couple games. I really wanted to see what longbows can do, how effective they are, and how I feel about them. And I'll kind of talk more about how they did and how I felt at near the end game of this battle report, but off the bat, for what they are, longbows are not, I want to say a bad choice. It's just, it takes up a restricted slot and they're not getting out a huge amount of output. They're just tickling. I'll skip the Noble Lord. I'll come back to you, Noble Lord. I guess I'm on a longbow rant. So for the longbows, your movement 6, that's nice. Your volley 2, it's not that great considering you're a restricted option. Your armor piercing 1, you have arcing fire, which is kind of nice and helps out because you're range 24, but you're only barrage 3. Longbows are kind of going up against Merc Crossbows, Hunter Cadre, and Imperial Ranger Corps. My issue with them base is they are a restricted option but has the same damage output as mercenary crossbows, who are a mainstay option, who can then, get you other restricted things. Longbows currently, yeah, they should be restricted, but they're kind of just not outputting enough to justify taking that restricted slot. And there's other things you could put in that might be better. Even you're running a foot Noble Lord with Household Guard, even thinking about Household Knights running around as a restricted spot option, or getting another unit, another Imperial officer to run Hunter Cadre, who are volley 2 and you get veterans up to volley 3 with armor pierce 1, or Imperial Ranger Corps who are volley 3 base. It's just, as a restricted option, there's other things in the faction that just do its job. You're paying a restricted slot for a longer reign. And I do use that, don't get me wrong, I am using that, it's just, it doesn't feel that great kind of thing. And I guess I'll get more into it as you see the game, but like they don't pull enough work is kind of like what I'm finding so far. Like it's just like you have it's like basically if you took mercenary crossbows and your opponent didn't kill them until the end of the game. Like that's the same amount of work you're getting out of longbows, and maybe this unit should be doing more considering it's like taking up a restricted slot. Like you have to spend points like men-at-arms or household guard or whatever to get longbows to just have to basically have the same output as mercenary crossbows, just keep shooting turn after turn until the very end. So I don't know if that's really the justification there. Like I'll get into it more, but like I didn't mind them. It's just like that's my gripe. There you go. There you go. There's my gripes. Back to the Noble Lord. He, here he is. He's attack 4, cleave 3. He's got resolve 3 and defense 3. He's weapon master, gives him that cleave 1. He's got the Regalia of the Empire, what's the standard, and he's tactical 1, so he's got indomitable. He needs to take tactical 1 to get the standard for Regalia of the Empire. That gives him and the unit he's in Dauntless, what means they always count as a Spire and can never break. So you can just refuse infinite duels with the Noble Lord and you're fine. And you kind of throw him in with the Household Guard because he just kind of combos very well with them, especially with their Voice Master. So Household Guard got 5 stands of Household Guard. Their cleave 1, support 2, got their stand bearer, so they're unstoppable. I did not veterans this unit because their cleave 2 base, when a Noble Lord is part of their unit with the Arms Master, they go up to Clash 3. And then because they're always inspired, you go up to Clash 4, and then the Arms Master also gives them re-rolling 6s. Your Clash 4 re-rolling 6s on a bunch of guys, like that's just the combo. Like I really liked what these guys do, especially as they were a very good medium choice, I found. Like for their points and what they were doing and comboing them with the Noble Lord, like that's the way to run them, obviously. I don't know what kind of point I'm trying to make here. But what I found was they were very effective. They had some decent survivability because they can't be broken. Defense 3, resolve 3 on a medium's like kind of nice. There was a bunch of them. They got that cleave 1 for that bit of damage. They're very high clash, rerolling 6s, so they're very good at hitting things. Support 2 is really nice when you're going deep. And yeah, they're a really good medium pick, I found. Another unit of men-at-arms, they're just there to be a mainstay choice and also score me zones. And in my last thing, if I scroll down, is I have a Theist Priest. He's just running Arcane 1, so he goes up to Priest 6. And he's just in a unit of Militia Bowmen. And really what this guy was doing was he was just handing out Blessed, and he was handing out, I believe it was Saint's Favor is the spell, what allows you to increase the defense or evasion characteristic by 1. And I was throwing that on actually the Steel Legion with the Imperial Officer because they would be defense 3 and then they would get Bastion for defense 4, and I throw that on, they'd be defense 5, and my opponent's like, alright, I'm gonna hit you with my Armor Piercing 2 Fire Forge. I'm like, great, now I'm regular defense. So just, they bump up that survivability. And also he is a medium character and a light, so he can get onto the objective zones on turn 2 and start scoring because of Vanguard supremacy from the Imperial Officer. Overall, with this game and how I played it and kind of things I found as I played it, I do enjoy this list and what it's trying to do. I went up into a pretty good Dweg list, what you're about to see, and there were some points where like I was having a good time. Like 100 Kingdoms were riding that line, but as you see the game goes out, when certain things start dying, it starts falling apart. I will probably play this list more and showcase it more. I might make it like some minor tweaks and adjustments, but I really liked what was going on here and what I was doing with it. I'm going to scroll down now so you can check out all my special rules and have a look at that. So just pause if you want to read anything in detail. Alright, with that, let's go check out the Dragon list. Oh, you know what? I named my list, Got My Sword, Spears, and Arrows. That's what I'm doing. So the Drag list, let's go check him out. Alright, here we are. 2 Drake, 2 Tempest. So, Fast and the Furious here going on. My opponent is running quite a bit of magic and quite and some pretty hardy units to support himself, as he does a lot of work with his range elements. For his Warlord, he's got a Tempered Sorcerer who's decked out with Focus, so rerolling 2 fails. He's Arcane 1 through 3, so he's a Wizard 7 and gets a free reroll. This is a very powerful wizard, and he's the Warlord, so he gets to cast 2 spells. Their army rule is anytime a Tempered Sorcerer, a Tempered Steel Shaper, or basically whenever a spell is cast from anyone, he gets a power point, and then he can use those points to auto pass, I believe, Clash, Volley, and Defense rolls on anyone within 8 of a Tempered Sorcerer and Tempered Shield Shaper. So he likes to keep his army around those guys so that he can spend those points to prevent damage. And that's all he used it on, was to prevent damage. Like, I would be like, I make 16 attacks. He's like, I spend 15 of these elemental power points, and yeah, that's it. I'm like, all right, cool. In his warband, he is running a Hellbringer Drake and the Fireforged. Fireforged just have a standard bearer, but he's just running them kind of like no unit upgrades, no size expand. They're Volley 2, but they're also Barrage 4, so they're going to be doing a ton of hits. And then he has a Hellbringer Drake that's just running around Barrage 10, Barrage 10, range 16, armor piercing 1, and he's got that overcharge, so he can spend an action to get an overcharge token onto the Drake, what he can then spend later to increase his armor piercing. There's 2 Tempered Sorcerers here, and they're both in School of Fire. It's a really mean school with fireballs, flame wall, and some other spell, but it's just, it's mean. His second Tempered Sorcerer is being the Hellbringer Sorcerer, so he's riding the Hellbringer Drink, and he brought a unit of Min Hold Warriors just to pay for the Drake, and then also score and sit in zones and contest stuff. And yeah, Hold Warriors is really good for that, and it's a really good choice to do this combo. The Sorcerer being on the Hellbringer Drake is really good just because now the Sorcerer is above everyone else, and he can see over the lines to cast his spells and to shoot into things. We next have a Hold Ray. This Hold Ray is running 6 stands of Hold Thanes. They have Bastion 1, they got the Mimic Apprentice, so they can like duel, their command scan can duel? Well, I'll look into this more, but if you refuse a duel, you get broken, and they can do like a free duel action, or free additional duel action. So that's kind of fun there. So I know the Hold Ray in the game tries to duel me, and I'm like, all right, well, let's see where this goes. Hold Ray's Cleave 1. He's a very good duelist and also just infantry killer because he's got Clash 4 with 5 attacks. He's also Resolve 5. It's really nice for the Hold Thanes because they're just going to be Resolve 5 the entire time until they die, so that just keeps them around forever. Herald of Stone, I believe, gives the Bastion their standard. So the thing I gotta say about the Hold Thanes is they get to a pretty good defense at Defense 4, and then they also have that Harden 1 to reduce like Cleave, AP, and Brutal impact, so that's really nice. They're a very tanky unit, and he uses this as a very good anvil that can slowly cut its way through everything and also allow things to support whatever it's fighting. And lastly, we got Argent Kiowa. He's just a Priest 5. He's running 4 stands of Initiates and 4 stands of Flame Berserkers. Both have standard bearers. Initiates I didn't find bad. They're pretty tanky, like just because of their shield, their Iron Discipline. They only got 3 attacks each in their Clash 2, so they're not on the high end of damage output, but they'll sit there for quite a while just getting punched in the face. And Flame Berserkers are his only light in his army currently. Well, not currently, but he's the only light in the army. They got that Aura of Death and the Standard Bearer. They're really good just because they're Resolve 5 and Defense 3. They have 6 attacks each with Clash 3, so they're going to be really good killing stuff and just getting up there. He puts his Argent Kiowa into the Flame Berserkers to get up onto objectives as quickly as possible so he can start scoring. But overall, it's a really good list, and we're going to go on to Scenario next, where I talk about, the table setup and then actually see the game. I'm going to scroll down now and show you the special rules. Pause it at any time if you want to read something in particular. Alright, let's go look at the scenario. Here's a scenario today. We're playing Off Balance. And this one's actually very scenario heavy, because there is no kill points for any regiments or characters. The only thing you get kill points for is actually the enemy warlord, and also your close objectives here, so like this one, this one, this one. Those ones are your friendly objectives, so you can move and see through them, but your opponent has to get over there to actually kill them. And then you got these two 12-inch zones. One kind like not in the middle, like it's off balance quotes, so they're separated a little bit. So you will score 4 victory points for every objective marker that is killed. So that, you know, I'm player 1, so these two in the back, and then you will get 2 victory points for each zone you're seizing, so that, you know, there's 2 in the middle there, and then you'll get an additional 2 for seizing both. It's pretty straightforward. It kind of forces everyone into those 2 zones because not my issue, but my problem with this is that these objectives are so far back. They're just way back there. Like, this is only, I believe, 6 inches off the back end of the table. Like, so getting to this one, you have to like get through a ton of your opponent to ever get there. And it's just, I find it really tough, or it doesn't become relevant until the very end of the game when your opponent has something else. So it's like you win more once you start going for those objectives. Yeah, I don't really have much to comment about it, like, except for that I find the objectives too far back to be relevant to the scenario, really. I don't mind the zones being in the middle or slightly shifted from the middle at all, but the second part of this doesn't become relevant until like the later end of the turn, or the later end of the game. And I guess like if that's what their design intent is because they want to go for like you score, you finally break through, and then you go for one of those objectives. Like, okay, cool, but maybe they should be up more. And like, I find they're dead objectives until they like either the end of the game, or they're not relevant at all because no one ever got to do the fighting in the middle. With that, let's go check out the table. Here's the table we're playing on. It is actually full of a bunch of just obstructions. So we got size 3 building, size 3 building, size 3 building, size 3 building. So this was size 3, this was size 2, and this was size 1. So those are our terrain. It's not a ton. I didn't get to set up this table or anything. Like, this is just regular game day, so the local Vanguard sets up the tables for us when we come in, and that's very kind of him. He also does like the training setup, so it's really up to his discretion, and sometimes there's a lot and sometimes there's not a ton. We're both running kind of shooty heavy lists, but we still kind of have to watch out and look where we're marching to get around stuff. Like, I know more for myself, this kind of right here and this objective being so close kind of give me a little bit of problems of like getting guys forward, because either I can't jump over the objective or I'm stuck behind it, and then one move is enough to like get over it or something like that. So, oh, actually it would be because of fun, but I can't. If I want to run my 16 to the Vanguard, I'm gonna end up like on the objective. So it was just kind of like a little bit of a pain like that. My opponent actually has the same issue over on this side. He comes up and he starts like gonna go hit the building, and I tell him like, hey man, bump yourself over a bit so you don't hit that building. Yeah, and these objectives are super far back, as I mentioned. Like, it's not very far at all. Lanes of path and travel are right here, and then this is just wide open. So him and I start coming out here to like get in, or, you know, we just go forward, just like, screw it, I'll just go for that end zone. Let's go check out turn 1 and see how that goes. Alright, here's turn 1. Things I have to say right off the bat is that I'm actually doing a couple proxies because I haven't built everything for this yet. I do own it, I just gotta build it and haven't had the time. So my Hunter Cadre and these Militia Bowmen are a unit of longbows. I have another unit of Hunter Cadre down over here that you can kind of see in the picture, if it'll show up. That is another unit of longbows, and then my household knight, or it's not household knights, my household guard are a mix of some half-built household guard and gilded legion. So just giving you heads up there so that you can follow along. And now let's get into it. So what went on? My opponent has only 1 light, so he brings in his Flame Berserkers and his Argent Killwall, because he's looking to score early with that medium character in the light unit. I auto in my Merc Crossbows, who run 16 inches due to the rapid deployment supremacy right up there to counter deploy. So I believe he gets the roll off to go first. He draws his character. I draw my Theist Priest character, and then I move my. He draws his Flame Berserkers, runs over there. I move my Mercenary Crossbows up. My other two were out of my my 4 lights, so 2 longbows, militia bowmen, and crossbows. I got 2 successes and my auto in. So I brought in a unit of longbows, and I brought in the militia bowman and the Theist Priest over here, and his whole job is just to get into the zone and start scoring it. I didn't really want to I wanted to put his unit last, just because I wanted to put his scoring potential in a zone that's not going to be contested anytime soon, because I want to score early and often. And then my next unit of longbows, I put them here behind the objective, because I didn't really want to be this far forward yet to start shooting stuff or getting into things. I think my next problem was actually my third move would have taken me, you can kind of see that 14 stick right there. Like, I wouldn't have had enough distance to get over the objective. My butt would have landed on it, so it would have been the illegal placement. So I just decided to sit back, but I'm still threatening this zone and over here. So that's kind of what's going on. Merc crossbows are, gonna shoot into our Flame Berserkers over there, and I'm looking to score. He has, the rest of his army is medium except for the Hold Thane, so next turn potentially a ton of his army is going to start coming out, and I'm going to start trying to get my mediums out. Alright, let's go look at turn 2. Here is turn 2. For lights, I get my second unit of longbows, and for mediums, I auto bring on the Household Guard and the Noble Lord. He auto brings on his initiates, and then he rolls for all his other mediums and gets no 2s. When I rolled for all my mediums, I also got no 2s, so we didn't really get anything on more than that. For what was going on, I believe I dead draw both my characters first off. He dead draws his character, trying to bait me out. I believe I won the roll off for this one, so I just drew both characters, and then I'm trying to wait for him to come forward a bit more before I start laying into him with shots. And then I have the longbows over here, go and shoot into him. I then have the militia or crossbows, shoot into him. I then have these longbows, they get their free Vanguard march, so they just come up, they're 6. And then I just take aim and shoot into them. So I'm just putting those shots in. Take aiming, going into volley 3, shooting my shots, everything's armor piercing 1. Like, I think that backstand there is on like 1 health right now, but I've taken out one of his stands because he has 4 for that unit. And then I run up my Household Guard as far as they'll go, hitting the back end of the crossbows. Oh, the Merc crossbows walked up into the zone to contest it. And that works because he has 1 scoring character, what is the medium, while I have 3 contesting characters that are the Merc crossbows. So his contesting characters' lights do not count to contest my lights as well. So he would have needed more mediums to actually score it. The reason why I put my Household Guard kind of like here is because I want to see these Flame Berserkers so I can get a charge into them later. And if he wins the roll off and goes first, he'll then charge into me and probably fight the Merc crossbows, and I'll either like run off or just lose stands on the edge here, right here, just so that I can then, move in and see and get them. And over on the right, militia bowmen just walk up 5 and then just reform to be smaller. And the reason why I do that is because I want to leave this space open so that I can put something else there to help fight on this side of the table, because there's currently no activity going on and I'm starting to score points. So at this point I'd be up 2 points. My opponent counter deployed his initiates right here. He's just looking to get into that zone with a tankier unit, and I know next turn he just seeks new escort of the Argent Kilowatt into that unit just so that he doesn't die as all the Flame Berserkers die and run off. That's the end of turn 2. Go check out turn 3. Here's turn 3, and a bunch of stuff is now on the table. So my opponent auto brings on I believe, one of his drakes, and then he rolls for the rest, and he gets his Fireforged. So you got one drake here, his Fireforged and Wizard, and his Hold Warriors. And then I believe he rolled the 2 to get the Hold Thanes in. Well, for myself, I rolled a 4 down for my Men-at-Arms, and I got 1 unit of Men-at-Arms, and then I just autoed in both my Steel Legion because I had flank on one, and then I was just going to get the other one through the automatic roll. What goes on first? I believe I go into the Merc Crossbows here, who then shoot into the Flameforge, hurting them a bunch, or sorry, the Fireforge, and then I believe I have my other unit of Longbows shoot into the Fireforge, killing enough to break and shatter them, and they shatter because I shoot the Fireforge, killing a stand. He then seeks new escort of the Argent Kilowatt into the Initiates, and then I shoot again with my Longbows, killing another stand, and because he lost 2 stands before, he's down to 2, so he's broken, and then I kill the third, shattering him, and the last stand just runs off. He then has the Initiates go, and they just move up into the zone, as you can see right there. I then have, I believe, these Longbows. I believe they just take shots into the Initiates and like do 1 damage, just because he's defense 4. So I'm not really doing a whole ton there. He does bring up his Hellfire Drake, who takes some shots, or it just runs up and then he casts his fire spell from his sorcerer into my Merc Crossbows, killing off a stand. Nothing too bad there. My Household Guard, however, it would be a 5+ with a reroll to get into the Initiates from where they are, and I did think about doing that, and my opponent's like, well, what if you break? And I'm like, or what if you fail and then you're gonna break because you're going through a unit? Well, I'm like, I got the Reality of the Empire, so I'm not gonna break or anything. And if the Merc Crossbows break, like, who cares? They're Merc Crossbows. They live to die. But I've been burned before of that 5+ reroll, so I just marched and charged and got it. Next turn, my first thing I'm gonna do is draw Household Guard and clash into them because that's the main fight. Over on the right side of the table, we start kind of like playing around. My Theist Priest, he's just been casting like Blessed on himself. And the reason why I'm doing that is in case the Wizard shoots me, because currently you can't roll defensive dice against against volley actions into you, like reroll it due to Bless, but you can for magic, so getting something there. And then I just bring up my Steel Legion here. Oh, that's a terrible line. Let me bring up my Steel Legion here. There, look, much better. Yeah, that's a perfect arrow. Men-at-Arms are just running up over here. What's my idea with these Men-at-Arms? So my Men-at-Arms idea was originally to like, I'm gonna get here, they're gonna fight this household, or sorry, these Hold Warriors, and that's, you know, they're gonna die to that, or like, if they need to, in case the Theist Priest dies from Fireforge shooting, they're gonna get into the zone and start scoring it. My Steel Legion on the right here, I think this is a tactical error on my bad. I should have swap places with the Men-at-Arms, like Steel Legion should have been where the Men-at-Arms are, and the Men-at-Arms should have been where the Steel Legion are, and use the Steel Legion use the Men-at-Arms to cover the flank of the Steel Legion, so that the Steel Legion could then move from that position into the zone and into the Fireforge. But you know, as you draw cards to your command deck and you make tactical decisions based on what's on the table at the time, and also in retrospect, you kind of know how the game's going to turn out. So I think in this instance, having the 2 Steel Legion being beside each other to be a really good hard-hitting hammer into whatever he's had would have helped me greatly, instead of what actually happens, even though it ends up being like a pretty close game. Right now the Steel Legion are basically just like going this way because he's kind of getting blocked up on himself, as you can currently see back here, and he has to deploy that Drake at some point, and I think that Drake's gonna come over here, so that's why I deploy them over there, and I'm just gonna start beelining it onto that side to kill those Hold Warriors, and then kill that objective. And then if the Drake isn't there for some reason, like let's say, you know, he deploys it here, Steel Legion will then just swing around and hit that thing. Yeah, that's really it right there. Staying out of range of these Fireforged and the Wizard with my Theist Priest, so they don't want anyone to die just yet. And that's really turn 3, like we kind of, you know, start getting into those fights now. For scoring, I'm still scoring this middle, or this right zone, and I actually do score the left zone because I have more medium stands than he does in the zone, so I get my 6 points there. Let's go look at turn 4. Here's turn 4. I start losing some stuff, but also my opponent starts losing stuff. So, things that are going on, I start with that clash into the initiates, you know, spiring to 4 because of, so Household Guard or Clash 2 base, Arms Master with a Noble Lord gets them to Clash 3, they inspire automatically with the Regalia, so they go up to 4, and then I re-roll 6s, so I do a bunch of damage there. He then has, I believe his Fireforge, but his Hellfire Drake and his Wizard start taking shots into the Household Guard because he's gonna kind of fight these guys back, so they start taking a ton of damage that way. And the initiatives start attacking to the Household Guard, so you can kind of see, like right here, 2 stands gone. My longbows on both sides keep hammering into the initiates. This longbow unit on the right here does get the initiates in the side, so you lose that shield. So I'm getting a couple extra hits there. I believe this is the roll with these longbows where they actually roll like 4 up and get no 3 downs, and I'm like, ah, come on. Like, damn, need to get some hits here. So that, you know, keeps the initiates alive a little longer. More crossbows, however, because they can't see the initiates, and I'm not gonna move them to like get an edge shot. I start putting shots into the Drake, and so because I want to start getting work into them, and I think like my longbows right now and my Household Guard can finish off the initiates, and then I can get the Household Guard into the Drake. So that will be really good. And like once I bring that down, the Household Guard can sit in that zone, and all the range elements can start shifting from the left towards the right and help out with the rest of the like things I'm going to be dealing with. My opponent here fiddles around a ton with proxy bases and trying to figure out how he can like move stuff, but he basically is stuck on this objective. Like, he's too long, so if he tries and marches and wheels, he can't get out, and if he tries and double marches, he can't, like, probably could have done with a double march, but he knows my Steel Legion, as you can see right here, are going to be coming for those Fireforged, and he doesn't want to lose the Fireforged. He wants to have something to counterattack, and he's just trying to get into me, but he can't. And right here, he can do a straight charge, but his tail end still touches the objective if he tries, so it's a legal spot. I'll tell you like a little head that he does like a march forward and then like a side charge reforming in, so he's good next turn to get to me. So he does figure out a way to deal with this, but like he probably could have like moved over more, or like found a better spot to put himself in, or just said screw it and just like marched all the way to these longbows. And I would have been like, oh god, I need to go over there. Steel Legion, just turn around, go get him. My Steel Legion sit back for quite a bit. His Fireforged move up a little bit, and his Wizard starts casting spells into my Theus Priest, who bless the unit and survive. I'm like I'm just a little surprised. And then at some point I just run double time action the Steel Legion here. This is kind of a bad play on my part, because now I'm within an easy like march charge of the Hold Thanes, and if I just like charged or marched up to here and was like 7 inches away from the Fireforge, it would have been better to stay off of the Hold Thanes and actually get into the Fireforged for myself later on. And this is just me being too aggressive and assertive and like, I have it, I'm gonna get those Fireforged, he's gonna lose them all, and I'm gonna be in a really commanding position. And this kind of like that move that I didn't like realize what he was gonna do with the move and pin, what you're gonna see next turn, like I didn't recognize it, and that kind of causes me a bunch of problems, and I get into a big brawl. You'll see right here. Men-at-Arms, move up the table, you're gonna get in the zone. Other Men-at-Arms, you start looking to get into the zone to start helping out. And then the last unit, Steel Legion, they're just running right up here because he's got Hold Warriors, he's got a Drake who came on. I believe his Drake just comes on and like charges up for overpower, and the Hold Warriors just sit there. And we're just gonna see Steel Legion kill Hold Warriors and kill a Drake and pick an objective over the next couple turns, so you get to watch that happen on the right, so that's one thing that's gonna be going good for me. But overall, I'm in a pretty commanding position. I'm putting pressure on my opponent. I'm keeping him out of scenario. I'm scoring those points to get up. Like, I'm not playing Dwegh's game, because Dwegh will, you can hit Dwegh and then Dwegh will kill you because of their natural tankiness. Like, if Dwegh are in the zones, you can't really disrupt them and get them out once they're there. So you got to be looking for your points and really focus on winning on scenario against Dwegh. Let's go have a look at turn 5. As you can see from turn 5, a lot of stuff is missing. So things that go first. My opponent wins the roll-off, and he does that march side charge I was talking about into the side of the Steel Legion. He then gets a free additional dual action off of the Mathematic Apprentice? Mathematic Apprentice? I don't know. It's a thing on, like... Dwegh, you got too long of a name. If it's not 4 syllables, I can't say it. So yeah, he does that. So he declares a duel. I'm like, nah, I'm not dueling. And he's like, okay, fine, you're broken. I'm like, okay, cool. And then I immediately draw the Steel Legion card here, and I immediately unbreak because I have bravery. So like, I don't care. Because Indomitable now allows you to perform a clean reform if you decide to do a reform. So I just reform and I fight. I just Inspire Clash into the Thanes and do because I do. Do I do it? No, it's still an action. So I just clash into him on Clash 4, do a bunch of damage. Cool. Then I have my household guard fight the Argent Killua. He burns some of his elemental power points here. That's his deck over there. To defend off a bunch of attacks because I'm probably gonna like just attack, and then if he doesn't hold off, I'm just gonna charge into his Hellfire Drake, and that's gonna neuter it, and so I can actually like do damage to it here. So he burns a bunch of that. This causes me to use the shooting from, I believe, this unit of longbows. Not this. Yeah, that longbows to kind of finish them off, and then I start peppering the Hellfire Drake with shots from my longbows or crossbows. The Hellfire Drake and the Wizard, they just put all their output into the Household Guard, because at the end of it, the Household Guard had 2 stands and the Noble Lord left, and so he just unloads into them just to kind of kill them off, because he knows like he can't be tied up because his effectiveness is going to be neutered immediately. So right now no one is scoring that left zone because I only have lights in it. So that's not great for me, but I can still kind of like recover, and I just need to kill the Drake and prevent it from scoring. More so on the right here, I have my 2 Men-at-Arm units start getting into the zones. They're starting to look to try and get into these Fireforged so I can shut them down, but because they have no banners, I can't march charge into them, like I'm too far away. One of the things I did think about doing was actually just like getting the Theist Priest closer and trying to get a charge in there, but I think it was like a 4-up, and I'm just not in a really good spot because he's so far back trying to score. So instead, I believe he just casts like +1 defense onto the Steel Legion, who then get shot by the Fireforge and the Tempest Sorcerer, and that's why all their backstands are gone. My Steel Legion on the right here, they get their charge, they fight the Hold Warriors. They only kill, I think, a stand and 4 wounds, because all the Dweghom guys are 5 wounds each. So they have that little bit of extra tankiness due to their 5 wounds and their naturally high defense. So they're a bit harder to kill. So I'm hoping, next turn I'm going to wipe out that rest of that unit and then get that charge into the Hellfire Drake. He does unload with the Hellfire Drake into my Steel Legion, but he only kills 1. For scoring, I get 2 points here. That's it. Keeping it up. You gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah, and that's the end of turn 5. Let's go have a look at turn 6. Here's turn 6, and I'm losing stuff left and right. So on the left here, we'll start with that, and then we'll work our way across. Actually, I'll talk about this fight. So I win the roll off. I have my Steel Legion here, and I think they were broken after the Wizard and the Fireforge shooting into them, but I get a free rally action because of bravery. I Inspire Clash into the Dweghom guys here, do a bunch of damage. That's great. He then has, what does he do? I believe he has this Drake go and do damage into my Steel Legion because he knows the Hold Warriors aren't going to live very long, and he doesn't want to. He wants the Drake to go with its guns before it gets charged. Then I have my Theist Priest cast the +1 defense spell, so defense 5. He then has his. Do you have the whole? I think then he has the Hold Warriors attack in. I save it all because I'm like defense 5, and I'm fine. I lose like a wound or two, but nothing crazy. He then has his Fireforge go at one point, and they just unload into the Steel Legion and kill them all. Really sad. Then he has his Priest go, and he shoots a spell off at this Men-at-Arm unit before they get to activate, and this Men-at-Arm unit before they get to activate. I then charge his Fireforge with one, guy just to kind of tie that up. Over on this side, he marches the Hellfire Drake into the zone and scoring that, or to score that, and then he just shoots off, I believe, from his caster into the Merc Crossbows, who only have one wound left. I move up these longbows, they start shooting into the Hellfire Drake, this unit shoots into the Hellfire Drake, this guy shoots into the Hellfire Drake. At this point I think he's down to 7 health, but my opponent starts using his Element of Power points in the next couple turns to just start getting, like, preventing attacks. I'll be like, I hit you for 5 attacks, armor piercing 1. He's like, I just spend 5 of them and ignore them all. And I'm like, oh my god. So that's a really frustrating thing because he has a Tempered Sorcerer on that Drake. It just prevents damage. Like, if you just, like, if it was, it's so good because you just spend as many as you want. He generates 1 every turn, and then whenever he casts a spell, and he has 3 casters who can cast 4 spells between them, so he'll get 5 a turn. So very early on, he'll just have a bunch of them, and then he can just start preventing damage and keep your stuff alive longer. And it's a really hard thing to kind of just like overrun with shots, because as you're trying to overload it to get shots through or attacks through, he is killing your stuff, reducing your amount of attacks back, into the point where you don't have enough to kill his stuff anymore, and he can just start spending the points to just reduce all damage because you just don't have enough attacks to begin with to deal damage. And that's kind of what's going on with turn 6 here. He scores 2 points here. Also, he killed my Warlord for another 2 points, and I scored 2 points here. I'm not exactly sure what the score is right now off the top of my head, but you'll see it at the end. But this is not going my way at all right now, but I do know I have a score lead. However, I need to kind of hold him off and keep him back away to like have that lead continue so I don't lose more. With that, I believe that's the end of turn 6. Let's go have a look at turn 7. Here's turn 7, and more stuff is dying. Positive things that died for me. Hellbringer Drake's dead. I just inspire Clash into it, and I just do a bunch of damage, and I do enough through resolves, and it just dies, like, boom, dead. I do believe before the Drake died that he did win this roll-off, and he got the Drake to go first, and he just attacked me, so I was like, okay, cool. I then get my, I don't believe the Merc Crossbows got to go, but I do get my longbows to shoot into the Drake, and do some more damage into that, but, he's using those points just to keep the Drake alive, because he knows, as we start kind of tallying it up and seeing how the game's going, we determined that he needs to win. He needs to kill this objective, and he needs to score both these zones for the remainder of the game. Like, if he's not scoring one of those 2 zones, he loses the game. So that's why he's putting so much effort and focus into keeping that Drake alive. To try and keep myself alive and to win, I need to just kill this objective and contest or kill that Drake. That's really it. So we kind of go there. His Drake moves up, shoots into the longbows, wizard casts, kills the mercenary crossbows right there. His Hold Ray and his Hold Thanes, they just reform and move because he's now beelining it for that objective. These Hold Thanes and Ray, they just murder the Men-at-Arms. Sorry, this Fireforge and the Tempest Sorcerer just murder the Men-at-Arms. Like, I think the Tempest Sorcerer just does it himself. He's just like, spell, dead, Fireforge, move up. And then I believe he shot me? Can you shoot me? I think he makes an attacks into the militia, but I cast the +1 defense or +1 evasion spell into them and kind of keep them around. The militia through this game, I haven't really been talking about them, but they've been just like shooting pot shots into the Fireforge, except they've been doing no damage at all. Like, because he's defense 4 and he just saves it all, so it's like, go volley 1, take aim to 2. You guys are doing great. I'm just trying to hold on at this point. Like that's all I need to do, and I can win this. But it's not doing that great to me. Like those elemental power points, he's just resisting attacks. Like I don't have enough shots anymore to bring things down like that. I can't close out. That's kind of what I'm getting at. So that's the end of turn 7. We're gonna go and look at turn 8. Turn 8 here. I believe I win the roll off actually. Before my longbows here die, I shoot into the Hellbringer Drake. He resists. Great. Then I get charged by these Holdthanes who just kill all the longbows. Then I have my guy over here shoot at the Hellbringer Drake. I don't even think I hit, or I hit and he saves. Like, it wasn't enough to do anything. Instead of doing the the overcharge draw event to get those like armor piercing tokens, he decides to go for Bastion 1 instead, because if you have a rider, you get Bastion 1, because we discussed this, we know what we need to do to win, so now we're just playing it out and kind of letting the dice fall where they fall. And so he's using that Bastion to increase his odds of staying. I believe when these Holdthanes actually go in to kill these longbows, he doesn't miss Measuring Stake. So I'm going to readdress this. This Hell Drake before could shoot these longbows, but on the previous turn he wiped out 2 stands. Now he's out of range. But he did the take aim action, rolled a bunch of dice into my longbows. Well, the only longbows he could legally shoot were these ones, so he had to put them into there. So he does a bunch of damage, but they still live. Then the Holdthanes go in and kill the rest of them off. For my on the right here, Fireforge and Tempest Sorcerer just murder that Theus Priest unit. So now he's in that really strong commanding lead because he's scoring both zones, getting those 6 points a turn. He's going to be looking for this objective on my side for another 4 points. My only out is this unit of longbows, I believe, has to do 2 damage into that Drake and kill it, but he has 2 elemental power tokens, so he's fine. Steel Legion attack this. They're heavy, so instead of doing 1 damage per turn, they can do 2, so I drop it down to 1 health. That's the end of this turn. Let's go have a look at, I believe, turn 9. Here's turn 9. My opponent activates. I think he wins the roll-off. He goes and shoots. He moves up here with the Drake and just shoots and kills my longbows. So that's all done on that side of the table. I go kill this objective and reform on the right side. He's reforming and getting his Fireforge to try and prevent my Steel Legion getting in there or killing them off. And then he has his Holdthanes, who are heavies, charge my objective and deal 2 damage to it. So he's at the end of this turn, at the end of turn 10, he's going to score enough points to win, and he's going to kill this objective. So there's not really much I can do at this point, but we play it out to turn 10 and go from there. Turn 10, I do win this roll off. Yeah, no, go me. Steel Legion just double time all into the zone, try and do something. Drake over on the left, he sits. Hold Warriors do their clash action, kill the objective. Tempest Sorcerer and Fireforge unload into the Steel Legion and wipe out all except for the last 4 health here, so yay! And that's turn 10 and end of the game. My opponent, of course, scoring this, killing this, and scoring this. Let's go check out that end score to see what it was, because off the top of my head I can't remember. And here we are with the score. So, round 10, I have 24 points to his 28. A pretty close game. I've kind of talked a little bit about how I felt about it as the plays went on and why we did certain things, but I was very aggressive at the start to score points because I knew that was going to be my path to victory. Killing his stuff really wasn't my goal, but keeping him out of objectives and zones was. However, I kind of hit a roadblock. His defensive capabilities of Dweg with those elemental power points just shutting down it, just attack rolls. I'll be like, I hit you with 10 hits, and he's like, I'm gonna spend 7 cards and only take 3, and then I'm gonna roll my saves. I'm like, okay, cool. So, and just the natural like tankiness and extra health of the dwarves just keep them alive so much, and their damage output through the Tempest Sorcerer, the Hellfire Drakes, the Fireforge, allows them to kill and shoot things that are tied up by their tankier units. So like if you saw there, he had his Hold Thanes, it's a really good anvil but has a little bit of bite to it, his Initiates, and his Fireforge, or yeah, no, not his Fireforge, his Flame Berserkers. All really good units to run up there and act as anvils and die. Like, those are not his work units. His work units are the Fireforge with Tempest Sorcerer and his 2 Hellfire Drakes with the other Tempest Sorcerer. His whole things do a bit of work, but they are just a really, really, really good anvil. And yeah, and the rest of it's just there to hold, and that was his game plan, and he did it very well. For myself, I think I used the longbows correctly. I probably could have put more shots early on into that Hellfire Drake on the left side just to try and bring it down earlier and just get rid of it. Like, you need to have something that can get to his Fireforge and like where his sorcerers are and just deal with them as quickly as possible. The problem is that the Drake is standing above everything else, so he can just shoot over his own things. Like, he doesn't need to draw a line of sight to get to stuff, and he can have his walls, and his walls, like his anvil or his like speed bump units, only need to hold out as long as the guns are doing stuff. Once those guys die, it becomes a lot worse for him, except he has that easy time with the Dweg's natural toughness to stay alive. Things I like about longbows: they have an incredible range. However, they kind of act like mercenary crossbows that are allowed to stay alive till the end of the game, because as you saw there, it took him to the very end for him to actually attack and kill my longbows. And yeah, he didn't like being shot, but it wasn't doing like a crazy amount of damage like you have from the Fireforge or like AP2. It's not like the guns off of the the Hellfire Drake, who can get up to like AP3 if he like spends a bunch of overcharge tokens. As well as they're Barrage 3, so they don't have a ton of shots per stand, like, and they're only AP1. So you're kind of like, as I mentioned at the very start, you're spending a restricted slot option for just longer range Merc crossbows, while you could just take Merc crossbows and save those points for something else, or like, you know, fill out more stands on other units, buy some heirlooms or upgrades, stuff like that. Like, I like them, but I don't, because they don't have enough killing power to justify being a restricted option. That's kind of my issue with them. Household Guard with Noble Lord, I really liked. I would say that's a very good medium unit that 100 Kingdoms wants to look into and have. Having more stands of Household Guard is never bad because you're support 2. And also, you don't have to go into veterans to increase their clash, because you can just put a Noble Lord in with Arms Master and you're like clash 4 reroll 6s. Like, you already are at the pinnacle of offensive ability with that. The issue is that you need the Noble Lord, so you can't like take that second unit of Household Guard in a 1 Noble Lord warband. So if you have 1 Noble Lord, 2 Household Guard, one of them is going to be doing significantly less work than the other one because they don't have the Noble Lord in that unit. So because of that, you're only really kind of not allowed, but you're really only taking 1 unit of Household Guard, unless you're going to be taking a second Noble Lord. Like, you know what, maybe that's the thing. Maybe the answer is 2 Noble Lord, 2 Household Guard, and then because they're mainstay, you put in a longbow each. Like, maybe that's a good combo. Thinking about it right now, talking to you guys. As for my Steel Legion, they're Steel Legion. They did amazing work the entire game. I actually, in the middle of this game, remembered that there was a defense increase spell on the Theus Priest, and I was like, oh my god, what if I did this? What if I become Dweg? So I kept throwing the defense increase spell onto my Steel Legion. I bashed in to become defense 5, and my opponent was getting annoyed. I'm like, no, man, you're AP2 throwing spells at me, clamming into me. Like, these guys need to hold. I'm doing whatever I can. Don't give me any of that stuff. All your stuff is super tanky. I'm really, like, I am liking the Theus Priest. I believe he's a very good support character. He has a spell for every scenario. You have options with him at all times. My only gripe would be is I don't like Militia Bowman, and because Bless no longer works on volley, Militia Bowman stock has gone even more down. I'm not really going to put them in Militia themselves just because I want to save points, because what I want is the character. Should I have seeked new escort into other stuff? I was looking at that. I was setting him up to like seek new escort into a unit of men-at-arms, but he just needed to be in the back rows throwing out buffs and support, because my opponent had other things in his face that he needed to deal with before he got to the Theus Priest, and if I threw him the men-at-arms and ran him up there, the Theus Priest would have just died faster. I did not need that to happen. I do like the Theus Priest splash at 100 Kingdoms list. Like, you'll always find a spell to put onto a unit to help them out, and that's a really nice thing. Like, I think the Theus Priest is really solid for what he's doing. He also has an attack spell that's really nice too. So if you ever need him to go kill stuff, he can go kill stuff. Overall, I had a great time. The opponent was great. I had a fun game. At the start there, I thought I was actually in a very commanding position because I had, with that Vanguard, I was so far up the table, I was taking over scenario, I was pushing him back and putting him shots. But as the game went on and I started to lose stuff through attrition, and he started to maintain stuff through attrition, and that is naturally more tankiness and those elemental power points, at the end it came in and swung into his favor, and he won. So good job on him. Thank you for listening, watching, enjoying these battle reports. I'm gonna have more coming. I think the next one is going to be 100 Kingdoms versus City States. That's going to be 1,500 points though, because my opponent doesn't have a huge ton of City States, but I'm really excited for that one to be played because I want to see the other factions. I want to see what they're doing, how to play into them. With 1,500 points, I'm probably going to bring something dumb. Maybe I'll bring a bunch of Household Knights just to be like, oh, look at them run around. So, yeah. Thanks for watching, and I hope everyone has a great day. Bye.